Our policy paper is about the impact of disinformation in the most fragile places of the world, places faced with conflict, with major crises, and what role quality, fact-based journalism can have in such context to counter the various forms of disinformation and misinformation today. We wanted to share in this paper lessons learned from our 25 years of experience at Fondation Hirondelle in fragile context, lessons and experiences from our local media, local partners, local teams of journalists. To summarize on our main learnings in this paper, I would say that in the most fragile societies, the mass dissemination of false information can be a serious aggravating influence, triggering fresh violence or impeding the resolution of existing conflicts. Disinformation can hamper the work of international actors involved in peace building, public health, or humanitarian response. Of course, rumor and propaganda have always existed, and they continue to spread offline. Traditional media, radio, television, printed press are also vectors of disinformation, especially when they are manipulated in highly sensitive contexts, manipulated by their owners, by politicians, by any parties in conflicts, for example. However, the use of highly sophisticated and addictive technology, capable of capturing our attention as never before, by drawing on deep-seated cognitive biases, makes the spread of an impact of disinformation and misinformation faster, bigger, and more global than ever today. We have summarized our strategy in addressing misinformation and disinformation in the title of our paper, Sticking to the Fact, Building Trust, Our Cure for Disinformation. Sticking to the facts means that an effective answer to disinformation should be built on strong journalistic principles. 1. Editorial independence. It remains the key to ensure a fair treatment of facts. 2. Reliability, which comes through factual, reliable news using verified sources. 3. Reactivity. Journalists must be able to work, to operate in the field, to work at the local level, to report when and where stories are happening in order to debunk rumors rapidly. 4. Proportionality. It is another key journalistic principle. To answer disinformation, we should address the real concerns of the population, not impose outside agendas that can fuel conspiracy theories, and also avoid giving too much emphasis on false rumors. And finally, 5, clarity. It is critical to acknowledge the distinction between facts and opinion, as well as to avoid blurring the lines between, on one hand, fact-based news, journalism, and on the other hand, campaigning and public messaging. Regarding the answers to this information, we also want in our paper to insist on the other pillar of our strategy, which is to build or rebuild trust with the audience. Building trust comes through relationships of proximity, work at the local level. Inclusivity, give voice to all components of society, all fields of opinion. Sincerity, do not hide things that are wrong. Do not minimize problems, nor give them undue importance. Transparency. As a media, you always have to tell to the public in a clear and transparent way who you are, who is your owner, how do you work. And 5, listening, in order to build trust with the audience. Media organizations need to listen to them, listen to the people's needs, to their priorities, their expectations. And in order to do that, work with researchers, with sub-institutes, with universities, build new coalitions between media, researchers, in order to better monitor what's happening online, to monitor the disinformation, and find new ways to answer to it. Regarding approaches that are not effective, according to us, I would just insist here on avoiding mixing or confusing news production, journalism, with messaging and campaigning. These are two different things. Both have their legitimacy, of course, but you should not mix them in order not to create more confusion, more trouble in people's minds, and to aggravate the confusion between what are facts and should be understood as facts and what are opinions and should be seen like opinions only. Finally, our main recommendations: please, as donors, avoid confusing in programs, avoid confusing communication efforts, messaging campaigns, which are totally legitimate, of course, with support to news media, with support to news production and to journalism. Of course, another recommendation is to continue and increase support to local media in order to allow local media to do their job properly, to allow them and also allow the journalists, for example, through support to training programs, to be able to work better, to improve their capacities, for example, in fact-checking. And finally, another recommendation is, as donors, is to invest more in media literacy programs, because media literacy can also be a contribution to recreating trust between the audience and the media by allowing people to better understand what are the news, what are facts, how do you produce the news, how journalists work, and to distinguish this from any form of disinformation.